Once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High, Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Ba'asham, Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all you sincere Akiam. And this is your brother Abawan back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Ba'asham, Kwadash. All praises and glory is due, especially in these times, right? And this is going to be the title of this video. Is probably going to be something along the lines of, a Christian genocide in Nigeria. What say you, vocab, right? What say you and all these other Wakitaki plantation Christians and scoffers that are coming against this truth and coming against the Hebrew Israelites? Your Christian brethren are being put to death, are being put to the sword en masse here in Nigeria. Not really, but let's go with it, right? But you have nothing to say. And really, if you really want to go into it, man, this whole Christian genocide thing is just a talking point here in, that Esau Dev uses. Right, so like I was saying, the Christian genocide is just another Edomite talking point that, Esau Edom likes to use to deflect from other matters, right? So, according to this individual right here, brother Rashid, okay, but you also have other individuals as well. Like, for example, I believe they call themselves CBN News, right? Let me see if I can find that. So, yeah. CBN News. Let's get that. CBN, here it is, this one. Yep, right, people. This is it right here, CBN News. According to them as well, CBN News, and I believe that is a whole Christian thing, right? They and a lot of people have been going into this whole idea of a genocide, a Christian genocide in Nigeria recently, okay? Something that has been happening more or less for over 5 years now, but Esau Edom has begun to hyper focus on it in these past few months, and there is a reason for that, of course, okay? And let me just preface by saying this: there is no Christian genocide going on in Nigeria. So the people that are getting killed, the people that are getting murdered, they're not getting murdered simply for the fact that they are Christians, or mainly or exclusively for the fact that they are Christians. That's not how this works, okay? Because these extremist Islamic groups, Boko Haram, the ISIS, the branch of ISIS that is operating here in West Africa, they aren't just here, running around killing Christians just for being Christians, okay? That's not how these terrorist groups work. Because if you understand anything about geopolitics, if you understand anything about these terrorist groups, then you know that they are simply an extension of the Western destabilization force, right? So your financial hitmen, right? Your espionage spies are being sent, and also these terrorist groups as well, okay? So Boko Haram, all right, ISIS and other forms of these Islamic terrorist groups, they are not out there just killing random Nigerians solely for the fact that they are Christians, but rather they are doing so in order to continuously destabilize the nation and displace these Nigerians, okay, these people, from lands that are mineral rich. And that's really the truth about the whole Christian genocide in Nigeria thing, right? But I'm still going to go with it. We're still going to go with it, right? So there's a Christian genocide going on in Nigeria right now, and why is it that guys like vocab, guys like what's the other guy's name, James White, I think that he's currently having to handle a case, right? I forgot the name of the Shamu, right? God Logic and them. Why is it that they are more interested in crying about Charlie Kirk, right, than actually addressing all these Nigerians that are getting killed, all these Christians here in Nigeria that are getting killed, right? This Christian genocide going on in Nigeria. So this is the same brother Rashid, and I made a screenshot of what he was saying of his post, because I don't have Twitter currently on this phone, Lord willing I get that set up. But yeah, this is brother Rashid. The real genocide is happening right now in Nigeria. Yet nobody is talking about it. Not Tucker Carlson, not the real Candace Owens. Leaders like Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer stay silent. Even Bethlehem's Isaac activist pastor Monthar Isaac won't even pray for them because Israel isn't involved. Who cares about Christians being massacred in Nigeria? It doesn't signal virtue, it's not trending, and it definitely won't. And it definitely won't get you money from Qatar or coverage from Al Jazeera. And you have this infographic: 62,000 Nigerian Christians murdered since 2000, right? And let me see if I can find this article, because I was actually looking for this article but I couldn't find it online. So I'm going to see if I can find the article by going on the Chrome. Alright, the Chrome. That's not Chrome. Yeah, it is the Chrome. So I'm going to just type in the article. 62,000 Christians murdered Nigeria. Here it is. So this is genocidewatch.com. 62,000 Nigerian Christians murdered since 2000. Fulani jihadists pilot news. So Genocide Watch, and these are the same people that are also watching the Gaza genocide as well, and declared it an actual genocide. So what the Genocide Watch is basically saying is, there's a Christian genocide currently going on in Nigeria, which is not the case, because what you have to understand about the terrorism that's going on here in Nigeria is that it is solely for the purpose of extracting mineral resources. That's why you have internally displaced people. And I did a video about this recently, about how you had a recent terrorist attack in Benue State here in Nigeria, right? And the village that was attacked in Benue was a village that was just recently resettled by people that were previously attacked by the same terrorist group Boko Haram, some years back and a while back, right? And you had, I think it was what did they say? I've forgotten the exact numbers, right? But multiple people being killed, possibly 100 people or over 100 people being killed in those attacks. Okay. And like I said in that video, the reason why that is happening is because Benue is one of the resource-rich parts of Nigeria. The same thing with northern Nigeria, because if you look at the map, if you look at an overview of where a lot of these terrorist attacks are happening, you will see that. Let's see if I can find that. So yeah. Here it is. So all the different states in Nigeria that have been affected by the terrorist attacks since 2021, there have also been attacks likely associated with terrorist groups in the following states: Borno, Gombe, Niger, Kaduna, Kogi, Bauchi, Ondo, Zamfara, Taraba, Jigawa, Sokoto, Edo, and Kano states. And majority of these states are in northern Nigeria, which is the Muslim part of Nigeria. And that's where really your whole Christian genocide narrative falls apart, because the majority of the attacks are actually on Muslims, right? And it's not Muslims attacking Christians, it's Hamite Muslims attacking Israelites, Christians, and Muslims. The Chibok girls were Muslims, right? The different states that have been impacted the most by Boko Haram and all these other Islamic terrorist groups are Muslims, Jakes, that are being attacked by these different Hamites that are mixed in the land right here. But you see, Esau is the devil, man. So Esau never gives you the accurate information about what's really going on here. If you look at the demographics, right, if you look at who is getting attacked the most, and you read all the different news articles about the Nigerian terrorist attacks, right, it's not Christians, all right, and it's not just Christians. Let me say it like that, right? because the idea is basically this, and it's something that is a little bit difficult to explain. Especially because I have to go into the maps, and brothers and not get the whole idea, because Nigeria is it's a huge country, man. It's a big. It's not as crazy. It's not as big as Babylon, but it's still a big country. And the geopolitics of the whole matter is a little bit complicated, right? So let's go to the states, right? Let's go to the states and show what I'm talking about, right? So this is the heat map of the insurgency, right? And you can clearly see that it's concentrated on the northwestern parts, right? So Borno, right? Adamawa, Gombe, Bauchi, Yobe, Kano, Kaduna, Plateau, and these are the mainly northern states here in Nigeria, right? And this is where the recent attack from Boko Haram took place, right? The most north eastern country, which is Borno, which is a Muslim state. Okay, so all of your northern states are all Muslim majority states, right? You have some Christians mixed in there, and basically what Esau would have you believe is that the only people that are getting attacked in these states are Christians. So the Christian minority is being persecuted, right? Because that's basically feeding into Esau's whole plantation Christianity persecution complex. But that's not the case, because what is happening is that Jakes here in Nigeria, Jakes here especially in northern Nigeria, are being attacked by these Islamic extremist Hamites, alright? And this is really something that happens all over West Africa, right? But Esau only focuses on one news article at a time, one country at a time, one situation at a time, right? Because these same Islamic extremists that are attacking Nigeria are also attacking villages in other West African countries, Niger, Burkina Faso, right, Benin, right, Cameroon, because there was a recent one attack that happened in Cameroon. I believe it was either Boko Haram or ISIS. You have other North African Islamic groups that are running around that are operating in Niger and Burkina Faso, right, which are still Hamites once again, attacking the Jakes that are in Burkina Faso and Niger, right? Because that's really what this is. It isn't a matter of a Christian genocide, right? But it's a matter of the curses falling upon our people. And now we finally can get to the precepts. That's the good stuff right there. The precepts. Let's go to that. I don't have the blue letter queued up. Let me see if I can find that. I can't remember. Oh yeah, here it is. The blue letter. So let's get to the precepts for grace, and of course we'll go to the book of, I believe that was Luke, the 13th chapter. So this is the book of Luke 13 verse 1. There were present at that season some that told him of the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. And Yahushua answering said unto them, suppose ye that these Galileans were sinners above all the Galileans, because they suffered such things? I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, ye shall all likewise perish. And that's really the situation that happened right there. Whether you want to say, oh, it's a Christian genocide, or you want to say it's Esau, basically, or whether you want to say it is Esau oppressing our people, at the end of the day, the judgment came from the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And the reason why you see these Christians, right, being judged, okay, the way that they are, is because they did not repent, right, did not turn back to the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, but they were still in the trap, the net of plantation Christianity. And that's what it really is. All right, that is why I'm doing this video. That's why we're going into this right here, the whole idea of the Christian genocide that's going on in Nigeria. Let's go back to this. Right, so here it is. So let's go back to this. Christians in Nigeria never carried out massacres, never dug tunnels, never fired rockets, never took hostages, never started a war. They are simply a peaceful community. Half of Nigeria's population who only wanted to live in peace, yet they are relentlessly attacked by Islamic, and of course is going into the Islamic State terrorists that are operating in Nigeria. But once again, okay, they are not exclusively attacking Christians. They are not exclusively attacking people based on their religion or whether they are Christians. These attacks are being done primarily on anybody that is living in an area that is mineral rich. Okay, this is all about resources, man. This is just another tactic that Esau uses to oppress, as the scriptures say, to oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Let's get that precept, you know. I don't know if you actually understand. I don't know if you actually understand what I'm trying to say right here, man. This is another tactic from Esau Edom, lying, right, and pretending as though it's a Christian genocide, even though these devils don't really care, right? You know how Esau operates, man. You know how Esau operates, right? You know what? So like I have to get that first. You know how Esau operates. This devil never does good. Okay, so that should be him that is evil towards himself. To whom shall he be good, right? Him that envieth himself, right? To whom. So this is the book of Ecclesiasticus 14 verse 5. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is the recompense of his wickedness. Right? Esau isn't telling you about the Christian genocide out of the kindness of his heart. Okay, Esau isn't reporting about, and I don't really know whether this brother Shahid guy or brother Rashid guy is an Edomite or a Ishmaelite. He kind of looks either or, right? But he's not telling you about the Christian genocide going on in Nigeria out of the kindness of his heart because, oh, the suffering of the Nigerian people touched him and he decided to do that. No, this is all about agendas and narratives. Esau wants to push that narrative of something going on here in Nigeria, of a Christian genocide going on here in Nigeria for whatever possible reason. Like I was saying, for whatever reason he wishes to do so, and I can't really tell you what reason that is, but hey, when we see the unrighteous draconian legislation that Esau put out behind this, they will know exactly why he did so. We'll know exactly why he was pushing this idea of the Christian genocide. Most likely, this devil is doing it in order to advance his NWO Great Reset, and that's the main reason why he's talking about these things, man. But you already know, man, as the scripture says. Let's continue reading. So now, this is the book of Ecclesiasticus 14 verse 7. And if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness. Right? That's why I always say, man, whenever you see Esau doing a good deed or doing something suspicious, we already know that anything that Esau does that appears to be good, right, is suspicious. Always side eye these devils, man. Always side eye these devils. So this is the book of Ecclesiasticus 12 verse 10. Never trust thine enemies, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Esau is out there talking about the Christian genocide. You can't trust this devil, man. You can't believe in anything that he's saying. If he's telling you about the Christian genocide in Nigeria, you have to ask what's the catch. Why is this devil talking about this? Why does he care? Why is this significant to him? What agenda is he trying to push? What unrighteous decree is he trying to pass behind this situation, right? Because Esau Edom is basically a subscriber to, I believe it's the Hegelian dialectic, right? Problem, reaction, solution. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So most likely, right, this whole idea or this whole situation of this quote-unquote Christian genocide here in Nigeria is being used in order to push some unrighteous decree either towards the MOTB, right, or towards the Great Reset, or basically towards both, because we already know that as the scriptures, we already read that precept, right, that if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and the last his wickedness shall be revealed. And that's basically what we're seeing right now, man. These devils, right, these devils, they don't, Esau is incapable of doing the right thing, man. He's incapable of being righteous. He's incapable, especially, of showing compassion to you Israelites. So when he does, he's doing it behind some form of wickedness. All right. So yeah, let's get back to the precepts. So this is the book of Micah 2 verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands. And let's not forget that these Islamic terrorist groups operating here in Nigeria, Boko Haram especially, is being funded by USAID, or was being funded by USAID. So they are so the US, so ISO is directly responsible for funding and arming these terrorist groups, and then consequently, right, conversely, right, ISO Idom. Let's quickly get that. So I'll go to the Chrome and let's type that. Let's type this as a question in the Chrome, right? Why doesn't the West sell weapons to African militaries? Let's type that in. This is from Quora.co.com. This is from Quora.com, right? So like I was saying, they will fund Boko Haram, right? They will send weapons to Boko Haram, but conversely, they will refuse to sell weapons to the governments of the nations that have to deal with these Islamic terrorists. So this is from Quora.com, and the question is, come on, man, come on. Why won't Africa get the military packages from Western countries the way European countries in conflicts are supported? And it continues, Africa is a continent. Would you like to clarify which parts of Africa, all of it, and which conflicts? Are they inter-African countries? In which case, which country should be supported? Now, there are two European countries in conflict right now, Russia and Ukraine. This is just... And this is another one right here. Why is Sudan not getting the same Western support as Ukraine, right? I don't think there's any questions here. I can't find the. Let me try the AI mode. Here it is. The premise that Western nations do not sell weapons to African militaries is false. Major Western powers, including the United States and France, are significant arms suppliers to the continent. However, their sales are often scrutinized and restricted due to geopolitical, human rights, and financial factors. Right. So basically, what the chat or the AI is trying to say is that the West actually does sell weapons to African nations, right? But those weapons sales are being restricted due to geopolitical, human rights, quote unquote, and financial factors, right? So basically, there are restrictions and checks and balances towards, the selling of weapons from the West to African nations. And we already know why that is set up in the way that it is, okay? And that's the reason why you see that a lot of these African militaries can't really deal with these terrorist groups. Because, look, when Jake is out here producing their own weapons, because you already know that Jake's blessing is not his sword. So I already know that Jake's blessing is not his sword. I already know, as the curses say, that you shall go to your enemy for want of all things, including the sword. So when Jake goes to Esau for the sword, now to deal with the terrorist groups that were set up by Esau Edom, Esau is going to give all kinds of, logistical excuses about how, you can't afford these weapons, right? Even though Esau is basically doing what's it I'm looking for right now? Weapons deals, right? Weapons packages to Ukraine and Israel, sending billions in weapons to them, right? Yeah, JK in Africa doesn't even need billions safe. A couple $100 million worth of weapons will be able to work for us. But even when Esau sells weapons, Esau sells outdated, weapons, right? Outdated, faulty, bad quality weapons. So let's keep going into it. Western nations actively sell weapons to African countries. The United States, from 2020 to 2024, the US was the second largest arms supplier to sub-Saharan Africa after Russia. In August 2025, the US approved a potential 346 million sale of munitions and precision rockets to Nigeria to support its counter-terrorism efforts. This follows a nearly 1 billion sale of military weapons of military equipment to Nigeria in 2022. France, historically a major supplier to Francophone Africa, France remains an important arms exporter to the continent. Its main African clients include Morocco, Algeria, and Egypt. According to CIPRI 2024 reports, France accounted for 10% of the arms exports to sub-Saharan Africa between 2019 and 2023. Now let's read this part as well. Reasons for restricted or selected arms sales. While sales occur, they can be limited or controversial due to several factors. Human rights concerns. Western nations often place on arms sales based on a recipient country's human rights record. For example, US sales to Nigeria have been temporarily paused and debated in the past over concerns about civilian casualties and potential abuses by the Nigerian military. Imagine America, Babylon the Great, talking about human rights concerns. Hey! Wonder shall never cease. And this just shows you right here, and this is what I'm talking about right now, okay? This is what I'm talking about right here, man. That's basically. Let's continue into this. Lack of affordability. Many African countries have limited defense budgets and find Western military technology too expensive. This has created a market for cheaper military equipment from other suppliers such as China and Russia. And like I said, right, the state of Israel does not have this problem. Russia, Ukraine during Joe Biden's time didn't have this problem. Taiwan did not have this problem, right? Because Esau would easily write military contracts and send billions in weapons and aid to them, regardless of whether they could pay the money or not, right? And the main reason why Esau was doing that was because of their own military interests. Taiwan to keep China in check, Ukraine to keep Russia in check, and Israel because the least of the flock shall draw them out. But when it comes to Nigeria, when it comes to African nations, let me just say Nigeria in particular because we've confirmed that one. The US allegedly is more interested in arming the terrorist groups than the actual Nigerian military. But yeah, man, that's the part of the factors that go into the terrorist situation that's going on right here in Nigeria. But Esau would have you believe that, let's go into this. But Esau would have you believe that, it's Christians just getting killed left and right here in Nigeria. But actuality, okay, this is a setup by Esau, and these terrorist groups are set up in order to basically, force people, right, to, or I should say, displace people from areas that are mineral rich in order to for it to be easier to extract those resources, right? So let's keep going into it. So this is the book of Micah 2 verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage can. And that's exactly what Esau Edom has done all over the earth, and what he continues to do all over the earth till this day, right? So it doesn't come as a surprise that this same situation is happening right here in West Africa as well. So yeah, with that, I hope I've been able to convince you and not confuse you. All debating and joke. But anyway, yeah, so with that, once again, all praises, honor and glory unto the Most High Yahweh Basham Yawashai Basham Rakakwadash Wa Abad Babal, and through the Spirit of Yakim and you are quite edified. Shalom.